We're live from New Delhi. You're watching DT India News Hour, India's voice to the world. I'm Lipakshi Khurana. Coming up in the next hour. Budget session of India's Parliament to begin with President's address to the joint session of both houses. Finance Minister to present economic survey in the lower house. US President Trump blames diversity hiring for deadly mid-air collision between a passenger jet and a military helicopter. Investigators, however, say it will take time to understand the cause. Israel releases 110 Palestinian prisoners after delay over chaotic hostage handover. Fourth round of hostage prisoner swap to be held on Saturday. And in cricket, India will face England in the fourth T20 international match in Western Indian city of Pune. India leads the 5-match series 2-1. On to the top story this hour and latest update in the Washington, D.C. plane crash. The flight data and cockpit voice recorders have been recovered from the passenger jet that crashed into Washington's Potomac River after a deadly mid-air collision with a military helicopter, U.S. media reported. They would be analyzed by the National Transportation Safety Board, which is leading the investigation. The cause of the air crash is not yet clear, and there is no evidence that efforts to make the veteran workforce more diverse have compromised air safety. Well, there were no survivors among the 64 people on the jet and 3 soldiers on the helicopter, making the crash the deadliest U.S. air disaster in more than 20 years. Well, U.S. President Donald Trump on Thursday, without providing evidence, linked the deadly mid-air collision of 2 aircraft in Washington to previous presidents' diversity policies. During the White House press conference, Trump said the deadly plane crash was the result of the Federal Aviation Administration's efforts to hire a more diverse and equitable workforce.
We do not know what led to this crash, but we have some very strong opinions and ideas, and I think we'll probably state those opinions now. I do want to point out that various articles that appeared prior to my entering office, and here's one. The FAA's diversity push includes focus on hiring people with severe intellectual and psychiatric disabilities. That is amazing. And then it says FAA says people with severe disabilities are most underrepresented segment of the workforce, and they want them in, and they want them, they can be air traffic controllers. I don't think so. This was in January 14th, so that was a week before I entered office. They put a big push to put diversity into the FAA's program.
Meanwhile, Kansas Governor Laura Kelly said on Thursday they are pressing federal authorities and American Airlines for answers and names of the victims after a passenger plane flying from Wichita crashed in the Washington, D.C.
We know that there are 4 people from overseas that had not been notified. We don't know how many actually have. American Airlines is responsible for notifying the families of the folks who perished in this plane crash. They would like it very much if you think you might know somebody, if you think a friend of yours, a family member, or someone else was on that plane, please contact American Airlines, and let me give you their number. It is 1-800-679-8215.
Well, the global figure skating's tight-knit community was in mourning on Thursday after a passenger jet crash in Washington killed 2 former world champion coaches and young stars from the next generation of top U.S. talent. The sport's national governing body said the athletes Coaches and family members on board the flight were returning from the National Development Camp held in conjunction with the U.S. Figure Skating Championships held this year in Kansas. The exact number of people on board who were involved in figure skating or had a family member who was a skater was uncertain, but media reports said there were at least 14 on the flight. The skating club of Boston said it lost 6 individuals from its organization, including coaches Vadim Nomov and Yevgenia Shishkova, who won the World Championships in pair figures skating in 1994. Well, U.S. President also signed a memorandum on aviation safety following the D.C. mid-air crash. Trump, in the statement, said the entire nation mourns the loss of the victim. Trump said on the second day in office, he ordered an immediate return to merit-based recruitment, hiring and promotion, elevating safety and ability as the paramount standard. Consistent with the presidential memorandum of January 21st, 2025, keeping Americans safe in aviation, Trump further ordered the Secretary of Transportation and the Administrator of the Federal Aviation Administration to review all hiring decisions and changes to safety protocols made during the prior 4 years and to take such corrective action as necessary to achieve uncompromised aviation safety, including the replacement of any individuals who do not meet qualification standards. Well, the Secretary and the Administrator shall take all actions necessary to reverse concerning safety and personnel trends during the prior 4 years. And since taking office on January 20th, U.S. President Donald Trump has issued a series of executive orders aimed at dismantling diversity, equity and inclusion programs across the federal government and the private sector. Well, Trump and his allies have also blamed, without offering evidence, diversity efforts for the handling of recent deadly California wildfires and a Washington air crash. Well, DEI programs have been part of workplace diversity efforts to ensure fairer representation for groups seen as historically marginalized, such as African Americans, LGBTQ+ community members, women, disabled people, and other ethnic minorities in the United States. The efforts aim to remove systemic barriers for groups affected by a legacy of racism, sexism, and xenophobia. DEI practices include training on combating discrimination, addressing pay inequity along gender or racial lines, and broadening recruitment and access for underrepresented ethnic groups. DEI is a relatively new term, but efforts to address inequities and structural racism go back to centuries in the U.S. Also, the landmark Civil Rights Act, signed in 1964 by then-President Lyndon B. Johnson, banned discrimination based on race, religion, national origin, color, and sex. And in 1965, Johnson issued an executive order that further prohibited discrimination in federal employment. Trump and his allies say DEI unfairly discriminates against other Americans, including white people and men, and weakens the importance of merit in job hiring or promotion. Well, Trump also signed executive orders calling for the elimination of government diversity programs and the removal of all federal offices and jobs related to DEI. The president has also issued an order to end funding for schools supporting critical race theory. Also, CRT is an academic framework that rests on the premise that racial bias is baked into U.S. laws and institutions. And for more on this, we have Shubhendu Ghosh joining us. Well, Shubhendu, what we know thus far is that there have been no survivors and recovery efforts are on. But has any cause been ascertained as of now, as the black box has also been recovered? What's the latest?
Lipakshi, the investigation is continuing in the ill-fated crash that happened yesterday. The latest information coming in from Washington, D.C. is that the divers continue to search for bodies. Nobody is expected to have survived this terrible air crash between the civil aircraft and the military helicopter. Some 40 bodies are said to have been recovered from the Potomac River. Remember, the conditions are very harsh. It's harsh winters. Also, the crash, the aircraft and the helicopter crashed into the waters of the river and went to the depths of it. So in that sense, it's a difficult operation for the rescuers to also undertake. It may take days, in fact, to recover all the bodies, experts say. Meanwhile, the black boxes, as you mentioned, have been recovered of the aircraft. It would be critical in determining the cause of this crash. We know that these are recorders which document those last moments of communication and exchange before the crash happened. It would help reveal what may have led to this sort of a miscalculation where a helicopter and an aircraft could crash at a place like Washington, D.C., high security and vigilance. So the recovery of black box is an important step forwards towards finding out what the cause of this accident, this crash may be. Lipakshi.
All right. Of course, a very deadly collision there. In fact, Trump blamed the federal hiring practices for the accident, and he also signed the memorandum for the immediate assessment of aviation safety after the crash. What can we say about this?
That's right, Lipakshi, and we see that by the time President Donald Trump came to address and speak to the American people, we also see this one of the most tragic air crash in the recent times also took controversial, may I say political turn as well, where President Donald Trump went after the DEI program. DEI stands for Diversity, Equity and Inclusion. As we mentioned in our stories, that it seeks to address the historical discrimination against certain groups of people. They could be identified through their race, through their associations, through disability, for gender, for women in particular. So in that sense, President Trump and his allies believe that the DEI program has been a program that discriminates against the rest of the America, whether it's white American or even merit. In this case, he says that it was merit, it was the people who were in charge of the air traffic were not qualified, and the DEI program may have led to the compromise of safety and security of a sensitive operation like air traffic control. We know that just after coming to office on January 21st, President Trump had signed an executive order calling the DEI program an illegal discrimination against merit-based appointments. And just after the crash, he signed another memorandum for investigation into all DEI-based appointment that may have happened in civil aviation and transportation, in particular, particularly in the past 4 years of the previous regime of President Biden. So in that sense, also attacking his political predecessors, both Biden and Obama, who he says, whose policies he says led to the compromise of security and safety and what may have led to this crash. However, what President Trump has said, there is no factual information to back it at the moment. The investigators say it's too early. It could take weeks and months to fully determine what led to this ill-fated crash.
Yes, Shubhendu. Also, the president has issued an order to end funding for schools supporting the critical race theory. What do you have to say about that?
That really, again, goes back to a certain ideology that President Trump represents. He thinks that critical racial theories discriminates and presents a particular narrative that dilutes the other side of America, the America of white Americans, of men, of the policies, of the supporters that President Trump and Republicans enjoy. So in that sense, he's also going after his political opponents. He wants to strengthen the groups that have come out in large numbers to support him in his historical political victory. And therefore, this decision also has to be seen in that context of how racial discrimination and the history of racism in America puts to question perhaps the support base of the Republicans.
All right. Thank you so much, Shubhendu, for all those details. In fact, here's what we know so far about the Washington mid-air crash. Just before 200 GMT on Thursday, a Bombardier jet was approaching Reagan National Airport when it collided with a U.S. Army Black Hawk helicopter. Well, American Eagle Flight 5342 was flying to the U.S. capital from Wichita, Kansas, typically a journey time of just under 3 hours. Air traffic controllers asked the jet to switch its landing route from one runway to another shortly before the crash. Ahead of the crash, controllers warned the helicopter it was on course to collide with the passenger jet, and the footage captured a small aircraft heading towards a well-lit descending plane before a fireball could be seen. Well, both the vehicles plunged into the Potomac River with the plane fuselage splitting into 3 separate pieces. American Airlines reported 60 passengers and 4 crew members were aboard the flight, while 3 U.S. Army personnel were on the helicopter. The plane was carrying athletes and coaches from the elite figure skating world also. And still to come in DT India News Hour. Congo's M23 rebels tighten grip on Goma. Tariffs on Canada, Mexico coming on Saturday, says Donald Trump, ways including oil to list. Russian drone strikes an apartment building in Ukraine.
Complex issues, hidden agendas, twists and turns, strategic games. We think all dots are linked. We just need to connect them. Join me every week as I connect the dots to unravel hidden designs in statecraft, mysteries, and decode issues that matter to you. Watch Connecting the Dots with me at these times on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News Hour. Lepakshi Quran, and moving on, Israel released 110 Palestinian prisoners late on Thursday after delaying the process of a chaotic hostage handover. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the sight of their chaotic handover was shocking and threatened death to anyone hurting hostages. Netanyahu and the Israeli Defense Minister said they had ordered a delay in the releases of the prisoners until the safe exit of our hostages in the next phases is assured. The Prime Minister's office said later that mediator had committed to ensuring the safe passage of hostages in future handovers. Later on, 2 buses carrying Palestinian prisoners reached Ramallah in the occupied West Bank on Thursday. Their arrival cheered by hundreds of waiting Palestinians. Israel's prison service confirmed it had freed 110 prisoners on Thursday as part of the agreement with Hamas for a truce in Gaza, which came into effect on January 19th. This was the 3rd round of the hostage prisoner swap. The next round will be held on Saturday, under which Hamas will release 3 male hostages. And the United Nations on Thursday said its humanitarian relief agency, UNRWA, would continue working in all Palestinian territories despite Israeli legislation coming into force that cuts ties with the organization. Israel decided to ban the UN agency following accusations that some of its staff belonged to Hamas.
UNRWA clinics across the occupied West Bank, including East Jerusalem, are open. Meanwhile, the humanitarian operations in Gaza continues, including with UNRWA work there. UNRWA says it is committed to staying and delivering.
Well, UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres on Thursday demanded that 2,500 children be immediately evacuated from Gaza for medical treatment after meeting with U.S. doctors who said the children were at imminent risk of death in the coming weeks. The 4 doctors had all volunteered in Gaza during the 15-month-long conflict that has decimated the healthcare system of Gaza. And Syria's newly appointed President Ahmed al-Shara said that he will form an inclusive transitional government representing diverse communities that will build institutions and run the country until it can hold free and fair elections. Shara delivered his first national address since becoming transitional president on Wednesday after former Syrian President Bashar al-Assad was ousted.
We will work on forming an inclusive transitional government, reflect Syria's men, women and youth, and take charge to build new Syria institutions. We will announce in the coming days a preparatory committee for the National Dialogue Conference, which will be a direct platform for circulation and consultation and to listen to all views about our upcoming political agenda.
Well, the Congo rebels, that includes M23, vowed to remain in Goma and continued their advance towards Kinshasa days after capturing the strategic eastern city. Speaking at a press conference, Congo River Alliance rebel leader Corneille Nangaa claimed the rebels were establishing secure humanitarian corridors for displaced people to return home. He criticized President Felix Tshisekedi's government, accusing it of over-militarizing the region and arming untrained civilians. The rebel advance has triggered a humanitarian crisis, forcing thousands to flee into neighboring Rwanda. Well, despite rebel assurances, Goma's streets remained largely deserted, with debris and discarded military fatigues scattered about. Goma residents turned to Lake Kivu for water as fighting disrupted the city's regular supply days after M23 rebels captured the strategic eastern city. Analysts have warned of an impending humanitarian crisis in Goma as basic services break down under rebel control. Well, as M23 rebels pushes south towards Bukavu, international pressure is mounting on Rwanda over its alleged support for the rebels. U.S. President Donald Trump described the crisis between Rwanda and Democratic Republic of Congo as a very serious problem.
Well, you're asking me a question about Rwanda, and it is a very serious problem, I agree, but I don't think it's appropriate right now to talk about it, but it is a very serious problem.
Also, the United Nations is deeply concerned by credible reports that Rwandan-backed M23 rebels in Eastern Democratic Republic of Congo are rapidly moving towards South Kivu's capital, Bukavu.
We are deeply concerned by the situation in South Kivu particularly, which remains very volatile, with credible reports that the M23 is moving rapidly towards the city of Bukavu. In addition, our colleagues in the peacekeeping mission say that there are reports of Rwandan defense forces cross-border movements in that direction.
And updates on Russia-Ukraine conflict now. A Russian drone struck a multi-story apartment building in the northeastern Ukrainian city of Sumy on Thursday, killing 9 people and injuring 13, including a child. The Ukrainian military said Russia launched 81 drones at Ukraine overnight, damaging businesses and homes around the country. The Air Force shot down 37 drones, while 39 others did not reach their targets, while Russia had denied deliberately targeting civilians since the beginning of the conflict. And U.S. President Donald Trump said he expected to decide on Thursday whether to include crude oil imports and tariffs on Canada and Mexico that are due to take effect within days. He added that the decision depends on what the price is, if the oil is properly priced, if they treated us properly. Trump has repeatedly warned Mexico and Canada, 2 of the United States' top trading partners, he'll impose tariffs if the 2 countries do not end shipments of fentanyl and the flow of migrants across U.S. borders. Trump confirmed he was going ahead with his previously announced plan to begin imposing a 25% levy on all Canadian and Mexican imports from Saturday.
We'll be announcing the tariffs on Canada and Mexico for a number of reasons. Number one is the people that have poured into our country so horribly and so much. Number 2 are the drugs, fentanyl and everything else that have come into the country. And number 3 are the massive subsidies that we're giving to Canada and to Mexico in the form of deficits. And I'll be putting the tariff of 25% on Canada and separately 25% on Mexico. And we will really have to do that because we have very big deficits with those countries. Those tariffs may or may not rise with time. Oil is going to have nothing to do with it as far as I'm concerned. Oil has nothing to do with it.
Well, a U.S. Air Force plane set to repatriate 80 Guatemalan nationals departed from the military base of Fort Bliss in El Paso in the United States on Thursday. The migrants were deported under Title 8, a law that allows for immediate deportation after crossing into the U.S. without authorization. The Trump administration has used a military aircraft to deport people to Guatemala, Ecuador and Colombia, a departure from U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement's previous practice to employ charter and commercial planes. And a conservative U.S. appeals court ruled that a law banning the sale of handguns by federally licensed firearm dealers to adults under the age of 21 is unconstitutional. Federal law prohibits federal firearms licenses from selling handguns to persons between the ages of 18 to 21, while Americans under the age of 21 cannot currently purchase a handgun from a federally licensed dealer. They can buy a rifle or shotgun. As per the FBI statistics, firearms are the leading cause of death for children and teens, and 18 to 20-year-olds commit gun homicides at triple the rate of adults 21 and over. And now let's take a look at other stories making news around the world. Amid global tensions, the Havana International Jazz Plaza Festival offered a refreshing escape this week, uniting musicians from various countries through jazz. The 40th edition of Cuba's premier music event set aside politics, featuring jam sessions, concerts and workshops. With over 200 musicians from different countries, the festival will conclude on the 2nd of February. A Cirque du Soleil performer has been given rare permission to whistle in a historic shopping arcade in London. Geert Chatro follows in the footsteps of musician Paul McCartney and a schoolboy to be allowed to whistle in the 196-yard-long Burlington Arcade. The privately owned Burlington Arcade, opened in 1819, still upholds its Regency-era rules enforced by uniformed Beatles. At Paris Couture Week, a Spanish designer, Joana Martin, showcased her Spring-Summer 2025 collection, staying deeply rooted in her cultural heritage. The collection featured an array of ruffled dresses, dramatic volumes and artistic plays on transparency, which highlighted her signature style. The runway was further enlivened by the passionate music of flamenco singer Estrella Morente. A new exhibition dedicated to Superman has just opened in Western France, offering a deep dive into the cultural significance and evolution of the iconic superhero. The exhibition explores Superman's cultural impact beyond the comics, from the unforgettable portrayal by Christopher Reeve in the 1978 Superman film to the darker, more conflicted depictions seen in recent movies. Superman has evolved to reflect both the optimism and cynicism of the times. And still to come on DD India News Hour. As February 1st approaches, hopes rise, all eyes on Union Budget 2025. Religious and spiritual fervour continues in Prayagraj. And tourists flock to Gulmarg as snowfall transforms it into white wonderland.
Timeless, boundless and infinite, the essence of faith, the soul of Sanatan culture, from the sacred confluence of Prayag, where divinity descends to earth. Witness the grandeur, the devotion, the magic, world's largest cultural and spiritual gathering. with over 450 million devotees expected to attend. Mahakumbh, India's greatest festival of faith. Exclusively on DD India.
Welcome back. You're watching DD India News. I'm Lepak Shikuran, and time now for a quick recap of the headlines. Budget session of India's Parliament to begin with President's address to the joint session of both houses. Finance Minister to present economic survey in lower house. US President Trump blames the diversity hiring for deadly mid-air collision between a passenger jet and a military helicopter. Investigators, however, say it will take time to understand the cause. Israel releases 110 Palestinian prisoners after delay over chaotic hostage handover. Fourth round of hostage prisoner swap to be held on Saturday. And in cricket, India will face England in the fourth T20 international match in Western Indian city of Pune. India leads the 5-match series 2-1. And Indian Parliament's budget session 2025 will begin on Friday with the President's address to the joint session, setting the stage for key economic policies and legislative priorities. President Draupadi Murmu will address both houses of Parliament at 11 a.m. IST. The budget session will be in two phases. The first part will begin from today with the Union budget on February 1st and conclude on February 13th. The second part of the session will commence on March 10th and will conclude on April 4th. 3 days starting from February 3rd have been allotted for discussion on the motion of thanks on the President's address to be moved by a member and seconded by another member. And Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman is all set to present the Union Budget 2025 on Saturday, 1st of February. But before she presents the budget in the Parliament, Minister Sitharaman will unveil the Economic Survey of India on Friday. The Economic Survey is released every year before the budget, and it aims to highlight India's performance in terms of economy in the last financial year, basically a report card on outcome of steps announced in the previous budget. So in a way, the Economic Survey sets the tone for the forthcoming budget. I get you this report explaining significance of the survey.
An economic survey is a comprehensive report that offers an in-depth analysis and insights into India's economy, focusing on various key factors. The Economic Survey 2024-25 will be presented today prior to the Union budget presentation. The survey will be presented on Friday. Economic Survey covers following broader areas: detailed economic context, offering thorough assessment of the country's economic landscape to enable budgetary decisions on current financial situation on ground. Survey will identify key issues to analyze the economic trends and also various challenges. Economic Survey allows better policy discussions as lawmakers, economists, industry stakeholders receive the economic data in advance, allowing for well-informed debates and discussions when the budgetary allocations are announced. Economic Survey is divided into two sections. Part A reviews the overall economic performance, presenting data on fiscal trends and macroeconomic indicators, while Part B delves into socio-economic issues such as education, poverty and climate change, and also offers projections into GDP growth, inflation and trade. This year's comprehensive document, as is the norm, is prepared by the Economic Division of the Department of Economic Affairs, headed by India's Chief Economic Advisor, V. Anantha Nageswaran. Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will table the document in Parliament on Saturday. The Economic Survey 24-25 is anticipated to emphasize job creation and boosting female workforce participation. It will examine economic indicators like agricultural and industrial production, employment, infrastructure, prices, imports, exports, money supply, and foreign exchange reserves. These insights will inform the government's fiscal strategy, guide reforms, and shape new economic policies. Essentially, the Economic Survey serves as a report card on India's economic health. Sakal Bhatt's report for DD India.
And for more on this, we have Anil Thomas joining us. Well, Anil, given the Economic Survey's role in setting the tone for the union budget, what key indicators or sectors do you think will be addressed in this year's budget, especially considering the current economic landscape?
Well, good morning, Lipakshi. Well, the budget session of Parliament set to begin or set to roll from today. It's got two sessions. The first session is till 13th of Feb. The second session is in the month of March. It's got a total sittings of 27 sittings that we're going to see. First half is going to see 9 sittings. The second half is going to see 18 sittings. 16 legislative bills and 3 business bills that will be introduced. But the economic survey is where the focus is going to be, for the simple reason, in simple terms, it's a look at the progress card of the year gone by and also looking at the challenges forward that the government faces purely in terms of taking the nation forward. And I think it's going to be a precursor to the budget, and it's going to give somewhere a blueprint of what the budget holds for the people of India. And I think the economic survey is something that's going to be keenly watched. It's going to come after the President's joint address to both houses of Parliament. And it's an indication in the first place of what or where the challenges the government faces ahead, and also the year gone by. It gives you a perfect idea of how the year has been for India and its people.
Right, Anil. Also, the economic survey, as you also mentioned, often reflects on the impact of the previous budget measures. Can we expect to see any major shifts in the fiscal policy or new strategies in the upcoming budget in the light of the current economic and geopolitical challenges especially?
Well, many that would be considered, especially since you mentioned geopolitical issues, the rising cost when it comes to importing fuel could be one that could be on top of the agenda, because that's something which is going to have a direct bearing on the cost of living purely in terms of the rising cost, which are going to be factored in. And that's going to be crucial because that's what people are going to look at. But the economic survey generally gives you an indication of what your budget could hold purely in terms of how agriculture, industrial production, along with export and import, it gives you a better idea on what the government plans to do in the next 12 months. The challenges that the government faces in the first place, and the roadmap and the blueprint that it projects in helping the nation move forward. So overall, the economic survey, there is no force that what the economic surveys could be very much seen in the budget, but it's always an imprint that the economic survey presents that people look forward to when it comes to what to expect from the budget.
An economic
many
blueprint
sectors that
indeed,
would be
yes.
looking for relief, especially in the budget, and we'll have to wait and watch in the first place what the economic survey holds for us to get a better understanding about, because the industry has been demanding on many fronts some kind of outlook from the government in the budget,
right?
In the sectors of health, capex, as well as also in the sectors of import and export. We'll have to wait and watch in the first place how this economic survey plays out, and that's going to be presented by the CEC. It's going to be presented in Parliament by the Union Finance Minister after the joint address by the President.
All right. Thank you so much, Anil, for all those details. And India's Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman will present the Union Budget 2025 in the lower house of the Indian Parliament on February 1st, 2025. And now let's take a look at budget expectations from various sectors. Well, the agriculture sector is hopeful for reforms addressing crop pricing stability through advanced minimum support price mechanisms, increased subsidies for fertilizers, and expansion of irrigation projects are expected to mitigate input cost and enhance yield. Promoting agri-tech adoption, including precision farming tools and enabled solutions, could transform productivity and sustainability.
एक कृषि प्रधान देश है। हमारी आधी से ज़्यादा आबादी कृषि के ऊपर निर्भर है। कृषि से हमारी जीडीपी करीबन आज की डेट में 18% है। हमारे देश में 85% मार्जिनल फार्मर्स हैं। कृषि के इनपुट के ऊपर जो 18% जीएसटी लगता है, बजट से हम आशा करते हैं इस प्रकार के टैक्स घटाकर या तो 0% या ज़्यादा से ज़्यादा 5% होने चाहिए।
And we take you to the UT of Jammu and Kashmir and get you perspective on industry expectation from Budget 2025. Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has already held a pre-budget consultation with J&K Chief Minister Omar Abdullah earlier this month. Shabir Dar of DD India has filed this report from Srinagar. Take a look.
Jammu and Kashmir has been the focus area in our union budget over the past 10 years. And people here are expecting the same this time around as well.
Officials in know-how of the budget and finances said that Jammu and Kashmir has always been central to the Modi government's Viksit Bharat strategy. The same was reiterated by Prime Minister Narendra Modi on January 13, when he said that the dream of a developed India will be realized when its crown, Kashmir, is adorned with the jewels of progress. The Union Territory, which elected a new government in October last year, has petitioned the central government for more central funds to accelerate projects linked to agriculture, tourism and industry.
We have seen in the last 5-6 years, a lot of development as far as infrastructure development has been done in Jammu and Kashmir, especially in Kashmir and in the rural and urban areas as well. So we are expecting that more and more funds are to be allocated for the infrastructure development.
Union Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman has already held a pre-budget consultation with Jammu and Kashmir Chief Minister Omar Abdullah earlier this month.
We expect a massive package from the Union Finance Minister so that our economy grows and our infrastructure gets developed.
The Jammu and Kashmir budget for 2024-25 included 42,278 crore rupees as central assistance and 12,502 crore rupees as centrally funded scheme and Pradhan Mantri Development Package to the Union Territory of Jammu and Kashmir.
We hope that this budget have a good impact on a common man's life. Tourism is the backbone of this state and elsewhere India, because tourism is the second largest industry which we are getting finance and we are getting revenues from all over the India.
The hopes and expectations are high and the demands too are realistic. So the Jammu and Kashmir will definitely like to get more incentives and funds from the union government to accelerate its growth momentum. With cameraman Arshid, this is Shabir Dar for DD India in Srinagar.
Well, the Union Budget 2025 to be presented on the 1st of February in the Indian Parliament has sparked a significant anticipation, particularly among the young students. They are voicing their expectations for a budget that addresses both their immediate needs and long-term aspirations. Let's listen in.
What we need is more allocation of funds for clean energy, for afforestation and for sustainable and renewable energy. So doing this would also increase the green jobs sector for the youth of our country. So in my opinion, actually saving allocations for the environmental protection as well as sustainable development is something we need extremely urgently at this state in the country.
My expectations from this year's soon to be announced 2025 budget will be strictly focusing on the digitization of our education. Obviously, right now the introduction of DeepSeek AI from China has taken the world by storm. So my expectation was that will there be some form of the allocation of funds in the soon to be announced budget 2025 for a homegrown AI system which will help our youth, help them in their assignments.
There should be a subsidized income tax slab rate for all of the stationery that a student buys. I know we all have switched to digital platforms now, but even then there are a lot of people who have a lot of skills, and supposedly in my case I would want to buy an iPad or a creative iPad for that matter with a pen. But in terms when we go for buying, there are really high rates. Even after putting it on a student subsidized cost, there are still a lot of, I think, hesitations even for parents, so that a student could go for that.
My expectations from the budget 2025 are primarily focused on the income tax cuts, because leading firms such as Citi have stated that the income tax cuts are going to help out middle earners, primarily the ones making around 10 to 20 lakhs, because it will give them more disposable income. When people pay less tax, they're going to have more income to spend, and this will further promote production and job creation as well.
So from this 2025 budget, I have two expectations. First is, I would like there to be initiatives to increase spending among the middle and the working classes through reforming the tax slabs in the middle classes and through increased social investment in the working classes.
And now to all the latest from the Mahakumbh, the largest gathering of humans anywhere on the planet. Well, the Mahakumbh fervour still continues with devotees from India and across the globe coming to Prayagraj. The administration issued a string of directives, cancelled all VVIP passes and declared the entire Mahakumbh area as a no-vehicle zone. Routes for devotees have been made one way to avoid overlapping. Given the huge rush of people heading to the ghats and returning after a dip, entry of vehicles from all adjoining districts has been banned and these will be stopped outside Prayagraj city. Instructions have also gone out to completely ban entry of four-wheelers inside the city until 4th of February. The administration said these measures are designed to manage the crowds and ensure the safety of devotees. People are being urged to adhere to the guidelines and cooperate. Well, the popularity of the Mahakumbh and its cultural heritage are being recognized globally. Foreign devotees visiting the Mahakumbh were deeply impressed by Indian culture, and alongside their holy dip in the Ganga, they experienced India's religious and cultural traditions. And for more on this, we have Akshay Dongre joining us from Prayagraj. Well, Akshay, with the cancellation of the VVIP passes and the strict no-vehicle zone in place, how is the administration ensuring smooth access and safety for the massive influx of the devotees which is going on, especially in managing the one-way routes and crowd management?
Well, let me start by showing you the kind of visuals that we see here at the heart of Mahakumbh. And this is in fact the area which is quite close to the Sangam Nose. That is in fact the main area of Mahakumbh where the confluence starts of the Ganga, Yamuna and Saraswati rivers. As you can see, people are coming in huge masses, in huge groups, and these are all devotees who are now on their way out of the city after experiencing the entire Kumbh journey. However, similar amount of people are also coming into the city as well. So the fervour remains as far as Mahakumbh is concerned. However, as you can see, there are no vehicles here, there are no vehicles moving. I would ask my camera person to pan around and show you the kind of situations here. Hardly one or two essential service vehicles are moving. The only vehicles that are here are to assist differently abled or the elderly people who can in fact go from one place to another as far as the movement is concerned, because you have to walk for several kilometers inside the Mahakumbh area, because it's an over 4,000 hectare large area that has been set up for Mahakumbh. So people have to travel from one place to another, and because of which especially the differently abled people and the elderly require some movement, and those are the only vehicles that have been allowed here besides the local people who already live in the area. And the cancellation of VVIP passes have also distributed the crowd to different parts of Prayagraj, and that has been a lesson learned by the mishap that happened here in the Prayagraj city. So here on, the administration as well as the authorities are taking utmost cautions to ensure that the upcoming Shahi Snans, be it on 3rd February, 12th February or 26th February, they are conducted smoothly, especially when the peak times are there, when the crowd surge. And for all of that, enhanced security arrangements and enhanced arrangements to ensure crowd management are being put in place.
All right, Akshay, thank you so much for all those details from Prayagraj. And moving on, the Jammu and Kashmir Rifles marching contingent has been adjudged the best among the armed forces marching contingents in the Republic Day parade. The Delhi Police marching contingent won amongst the Central Armed Police Forces contingents. Minister of State for Defence Sanjay Seth gave away the prizes to the winning marching teams as well as the best tableau. The first prize for the best tableau has been bagged by the UP tableau, which depicted the Mahakumbh 2025. And now some update from the weather of Jammu Kashmir. Fresh snowfall in Gulmarg has brought an exciting wave of joy and anticipation among tourists, making it one of the most sought after destinations in Kashmir once again. As the snow blankets the picturesque town in a serene white cover, it has created the perfect conditions for winter sports enthusiasts and nature lovers to indulge in the beauty of the season. Tourists from across the country and abroad have flocked to Gulmarg to experience its enchanting winter landscape. Well, you're watching DD India News. Our time now for some sports news. In men's cricket, India will face England in the 4th T20 international match in the western Indian city of Pune. In the 3rd T20 international match, England defeated India by 26 runs at Niranjan Shah Stadium in Rajkot, Gujarat on Tuesday. Despite this loss, the Suryakumar Yadav-led Indian side still leads the 5-match series 2-1. And National Games 2025 is currently underway in Uttarakhand. Karnataka currently led the National Games 2025 medal table with 12 medals, including 7 golds. Manipur are second with 6 golds. Maharashtra delivered an outstanding performance in the triathlon events at the National Games, securing a total of 6 medals, including 2 gold, 2 silver and 2 bronze. The Trishul shooting range in Dehradun was the stage for a high-octane showdown, with 2 shooting stars, Anish Bhanwala and Narmada Nitin Raju, emerging victorious in their respective finals. Well, the weightlifting action at the 38th National Games kicked off in a spectacular fashion on Thursday, with Chhattisgarh emerging as a force to be reckoned with. The state claimed 2 gold medals, but it was Maharashtra that led the overall tally with 6 medals, including a gold, a silver and 4 bronze medals, while Kerala and Services Sports Control Board have bagged 1 gold each. In a nail-biting contest, Vijay Kumar of Chhattisgarh matched the national clean and jerk record and secured gold. Gyaneshwari Devi bagged another gold for Chhattisgarh with a total lift of 191 kgs in the clean and jerk event. And for more on this, we have Narayan Singh joining us from Dehradun. Well, Narayan, Chhattisgarh's impressive performance in weightlifting, especially with Vijay Kumar matching the national clean and jerk record, has turned heads. How do you see the state's growing dominance in weightlifting, and what does it mean for the overall competition in the National Games?
Good morning, Lipaki. The way things are happening at the National Games, you can see that you mentioned Vijay Kumar shattering the national record. And definitely, it's a big thing that the players from the humble background, the states like Chhattisgarh, are doing well. And this credit goes to the schemes launched by the government too, the infrastructure raised by the government too. Because if you take a look at the infrastructure here in Uttarakhand too, definitely it's a world class. And the athletes who are coming here to participate in the game are mesmerized by watching such a wonderful world-class infrastructure. Talking about the basketball stadium, even an NBA match could be, we can say, organized here in Uttarakhand, because there is advanced facilities. If you take a look at the basketball court, there are the shot clock, match clock, and as well as a world-class wooden floor. And talking about the shooting range, it is the first shooting range in the world which has the advanced equipment as there was in the Paris Olympics. So the latest technology is there, latest equipments are there. And if you talk about our other things also, definitely it is far to the world level. And this thing motivates our players, our athletes. As you mentioned, Vijay Kumar shattering the national record, creating the new record. And talking about in shooting too, there was a wonderful competition where the Olympian who was there in the finals of the 10-meter air pistol event in the Paris Olympics, he was third. And in that category, Narmada Raju of Tamil Nadu was the gold medalist. And in that category, the silver medal went to the shooter of the Maharashtra. So we can say that the Olympians are here, the rookie players are here, the new players are here. So a level of competition is very intense here between them, and it's giving a platform to them. Here, if a player is participating, the environment is like an international event. So when our athletes get such a platform, such exposure against top-class competitors, definitely India is on the rise, and that's why we witness in the performance of the Indian athletes at the international level.
All right, great exposure for our athletes indeed. Thank you so much, Narayan, for joining us and giving us all those details. And former world number 1 Kidambi Srikanth has advanced to the quarter-finals of the men's single event at the Thailand Masters Badminton Tournament after a victory in Pathuvmam on Thursday. The Indian shuttler beat Jason Gunawan 21-19, 21-15 in their round of 16 match. This was Srikanth's second straight game win over Gunawan in as many meetings. In other men's single match, Sankar Subramaniam produced a valiant fight back to defeat Indonesia's Chico Ora Dwe Warriors 9-21, 21-10, 21-17. Subramaniam lost the first game but rallied to win the second and take the match into a decider. Sankar was down 14-9 in the decider but produced a spirited comeback to win the third game and move into the quarterfinals. Well, Hong Kong celebrated the second day of the Lunar New Year with dazzling fireworks display over Victoria Harbour on Thursday. The vibrant fireworks attracted thousands of spectators to the waterfront. Take a look. And there's a tweet which the Prime Minister Narendra Modi has done on the helicopter crash in Washington, D.C. And he said, and I quote, "Deeply saddened by the loss of lives in the tragic collision in Washington, D.C. Our heartfelt condolences to the families of the victims. We stand in solidarity with the people of the United States," unquote. All right, that's all for this edition of DD India News Hour, but let us know your thoughts on the news of the day. For those on the go, you can get all the latest news and updates from India and across the world on the DD India mobile app. The app is available on both Android and iOS platforms. Scan the QR code on the screen to download now. We'll be back with more news as it breaks here on DD India. I'm Lipakshi Khurana from all of us here in Delhi. Thanks for watching DD India News Hour.